ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another Spotlight interview with Global Thought Leaders, an initiative by RightSource Global. I am Zushan Pathan, Executive Director at RightSource Global and a council member of Global Thought Leaders. Along with me, I have my colleague, friend, and a council member of Global Thought Leaders, Heval Mehta, Chief Growth Officer at RSG. Global Thought Leaders is a platform for industry stalwarts to cross-pollinate with their thoughts, experiences, ideas, and best practices to inspire each other and future leaders. Through Spotlight interviews, we strive to bring the community of eminent personalities together from across the globe. We collate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by proliferating brains in a nutshell. We bring the expertise of various functions, roles, and sectors together on one platform to inspire future leaders. We have one such industry stalwart today on the spotlight with us, Mr. Amit Malik. Amit Malik is the doyen of the BFSI industry. I would request Heval to introduce our today's eminent personality.
Well, thank you so much, Zishan, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to introduce Amit. Well, in fact, Amit does not require any introduction. However, to speak about Amit a little bit, it's an honor. Amit is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Aviva India. He brings along 22 years of experience in business strategy, solutioning, sales, customer experience management, business restructuring, succession planning, and operations for large businesses across banking, financial services, captive, insurance, and FMCG industry. At Aviva India, he plays a key role in advancing the company's mission and objectives while keeping the brand relevant to the evolving business environment. Under his guidance, Aviva India has been strengthening its position as the most trusted private life insurer in the country. Amit joined the company in December 2012 and has been part of Aviva Leadership Team since then. In his earlier role as the Chief People Operations and Customer Services Officer, he was responsible for driving customer focus, operational excellence, and people agenda for the company. Amit holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree and is a management graduate from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, Pune. He is also an alumnus of the School of Industrial and Labor Relations, Cornell University, SET Business School, University of Oxford, and a certified coach from International Coaching Federation. Before joining Aviva India, he has worked in the leadership roles at Bank of America, Royal Bank of Scotland, American Express, and GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Healthcare, and has undertaken regional assignments in Malaysia and Sri Lanka during his working period. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an exciting conversation today with Amit Malik. We welcome Amit Malik on the spotlight.
Thank you, Heval. Thank you, Zishan, for having me here for the introduction. And namaskar and hello to all your viewers, listeners, wherever they are. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and to share my thoughts today. So I'm so looking forward to the conversation, both of you.
Great. It's an honor to have you, Amit. People now know about your accomplishments and it's quite visible to everyone, right? I'm very curious to know about this. Were you certain about today's accomplishments when you started your career journey? And if so, what made you realize that you are on a certain trajectory to lead a multi-million-dollar company?
Well, that's an interesting question. If I was sure of what I would have achieved today, actually, I would have been a superhuman with powers to see in the future, but that's not the case, right? I would be lying if I said I knew I was sure where I'd reach, but definitely I can say that I had a plan and I had certain goals and milestones in my career, which I worked towards. Right. I think when I look at my career, it's been a mix of success and failures. What I've always endeavored is that, when you have the highs of your career, you try and elongate them, and when you have the lows, you try and minimize that period. You take your learnings and you move on to see how you can turn it around. For me, a couple of things have been very important. One, it's, I've never gone with the job description or the role that I've been asked to do. It's about what you make of the job, what you add value to it. How do you enlarge your own job? I think that's something that I've always focused on. I've always worked on in my career. And that's an advice that I give to a lot of people. Also, titles and designations are manifestations of the goals that one has in one's career. But what is more important is how much you contribute, both from your customer, employee, and the organization standpoint. What is the impact that you have? And that's been my endeavor. Every day morning for the last 22 years, I've gotten up, looked in the mirror, smiled to myself and said, I'm going to give it my best today. And I think that's been something that has helped me good in this journey. And as I say, it's about a lot of friends and mentors who have helped me on the way, and my family and friends who have been there. So they've all had a role to play in where I am today.
That's inspiring, Amit. In fact, in all our conversations, we really do discuss about the accomplishments, and we also focus, a part of our conversation on the challenges that various industry stalwarts have faced. So, I would like to know, what were your key challenges you faced during your transition from being an HR leader to the corner office of a CEO?
So, well, from an HR leader, I first transitioned to be the operations and the customer service leader. So I did the COO role for 3 years, and then I transitioned into the CEO. So a lot of people, when they talk about me, kind of forget that there was an intermediate transition before I became the CEO. But it is there. But coming back to your question, Zishan, I think some of the challenges, and if I was to say my top 3 challenges, I think the first one was getting the direct P&L responsibility. For someone who's been a career HR professional and then went on to do operations and customer service, while I still had the responsibility of the retention book and the retention customers of my 3 years in operations, but still to get a direct P&L responsibility was one of the big challenge. Because what happens is, as you transition into a CEO for an insurance company, then you start to connect the dots and link, saying how the actuarial function, the investment function, the finance function, along with claims and sales, how do you connect the dots, and what are the key levers to impact? I think that whole understanding was, first and foremost, very, very important for me from a transition standpoint. Right. The second was, as the CEO of the organization, your stakeholder alignment undergoes a very significant change. See, when you are a CXO or you are a head of the function, you know that there is a shareholder and there is an alignment, but it also is that you have a boss who's a CEO, whose job is to align everybody else, and you align with the company objective at that time. When you come into that chair, then it is up to you entirely. How do you align yourself and manage that for the whole organization? So that whole perspective of change of alignment is there, which needs to undergo a lot of change. The third is, the role requires a lot of self-motivation. And I know I'm being very provocative here and saying this, but I think the role requires a lot of self-motivation. Because when things go right, as a leader of the pack, you need to ensure that you distribute the praise down to the last man and people who deserve it. But when things go wrong, it is up to you to stand up and take responsibility. It's at that time you say, I'm the one who's responsible. So there is very little external motivation in the role. As they say, it's lonely at the top. I think you need to draw a lot of inspiration and motivation from within. And I think that's something that, one has to realize. And I think those are the challenges that, one faces.
Well, great, Amit. Very much to the point, and I'm really very much enjoying this conversation, and I'm sure all the viewers are. So, during this journey in your multi-decadal experience, what are the key traits of your personality you imbibed and nurtured over years that you believe have added value to your growth?
Again, I think when I look back at my career and I look at my own personality and how I've nurtured and changed, we all change and grow over years as we get experience. But some of the key traits that that have always helped me or held me in good stead, I think number one is humility. And when I say humility, it is about acknowledging that I don't know everything. Right? I'm not always right. My idea is not the best idea in the room, irrespective of what leadership positions I have had. So I always vocally call out and say there are people in the room who are much more smarter than me. So even if I'm the CEO today, I have no qualms in walking into the room and asking the most dumb and the stupidest question that anybody can ask, or putting my hand up and saying, I really don't know about this. Can somebody explain to me? Right. And I think this has helped me keep my mind open to learning. This has kept the learner in me alive. And, and it has also given my team the confidence that, they can speak up. They can share their thoughts and views. And I'm always open to learning, whether it comes from my peers, my subordinates, my superiors. I think this ability has really helped me learn and grow. The second thing that has really helped me, which I have developed over the period of years, is courage and conviction. right? I've always had the courage to say what I thought was right and the conviction of why I am saying it. One is to have an opinion. That is, everyone can have an opinion, but to back your view with conviction or with logic or with the thought that why you are saying it has always helped me. Yes, it has put me into tight situations at times where people have not liked what I've said, but in the end, they have always been convinced that I've had the best intentions. So in the long run, it's always worked out to my advantage. So I think that's the second piece. And the third piece that I've always focused on is lead by example. I always think that, the tone is always set at the top. If you are a leader and you expect your team to deliver on a certain thing, you have to be in the trenches with your team to give them the feeling that you are one of them and you are with them. I think that's what helps. Even today, I'm one of the early ones who comes into the office, right, and start to work when the COVID regulations were there and government asked us to come back last year. As a leadership team member, we took onus of being the first ones to come back and give the teams the confidence. So I think my whole point is people watch your actions more than your words, and your actions have to be true to what you expect of them. So I think that for me is very, very important. So humility, courage, and conviction, and lead by example. And, while they seem very commonplace, but I think they're very, very important, and it's an individual's journey. So these are the traits that I feel have helped me.
Well, Amit, the pick of the day for me is that keep your mind open to learning new things, right? And ask right questions that would give you the right answers for the questions that you have. Well, with the advent of the new technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, cloud, and IoT, how do you see the Industrial Revolution 4.0 impacting insurance sector?
Well, Industrial Revolution 4.0 is a concept that has revolutionized manufacturing and related ecosystem. When I look at the financial services space, or when I look at insurance in specific, I think the emergence of Web 3.0, along with the combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, metaverse, which is now the new buzzword, and blockchain, I think they are revolutionizing it, and they will have the same impact as 4.0 manufacturing has had on the manufacturing sector. For all those uninitiated here who are listening to me, Web 3.0 will transform the way we work, learn, transact, and interact in the digital space. If you've not heard about metaverse, I urge you to go and read about it. But I think distributed ledger technologies such as blockchain will, support decentralized networks, security, and storage. When I look at the Web 3.0, I think it will be open, it will be permissionless, and yet it will become very, very credible. For insurers like us, it will not only simplify the process, the customer journey, the digital experience for the customer, it will also help us hyper-personalize or personalize our offering and products to an individual need, which I think will eventually end up benefiting the whole ecosystem, whether it's the manufacturers like us, whether it's the customers that we service, or whether it is the other allied industries who are affiliated to this ecosystem. I think they will all benefit. Let me go a few steps further and say this will also help hugely in the distribution capability for the manufacturers like us, and from a governance, risk, compliance mechanism standpoint. So I think Web 3.0, we are at an intersection of a cusp which will explode, and it will benefit all. So that's my thought on that.
Well, amazing thoughts, Amit. Well, going back to our conversation before, and you mentioned that your success, was contributed by many people, right? And if you see, people know about your success. However, we would like to know about the professionals, mentors, and family to whom you attribute your success and how they help you lay the foundational ground on which you have developed the values and principles of a leader.
The leaders that I look up to are two, Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela. You can see a Nelson Mandela quote right behind me. It says, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And I always say that he's having my back. So those are the two leaders, because they have both demonstrated a lot of courage and conviction in the ideas and the beliefs that they have had. And if you read about their journey, it's absolutely inspiring. From a mentor standpoint, I always feel that, rather than having one mentor, we should all have different mentors in our life, because you should reach out to the mentors for different things, for what their strengths are. So I've had a few mentors who, I can't name all of them here, but who know who they are. And if they are listening, a big thank you to them. And, they have inspired, and I've gone to them at different points in my career, in my life, and I still go to them, for different things that they can. I also have young mentors. So I have two of them who know who they are, and they are my young mentors who challenge me and my mindset and keep me real. So, they will have a conversation and with me and say, oh, that's too old school, or that was relevant 15 years ago. I don't think it's relevant today. Or they will tell me that this is a perspective that you need to look at the new generation, which is coming into the workforce. So I learn from them, and I have regular conversations with all my mentors on a, monthly, quarterly basis as needed. My father has had all, he comes from a defense background. He always stressed on qualities like hard work and integrity, which have been the cornerstone. So in our family, you only speak the truth, you never lie, and that's a cardinal principle. So you can choose to say I don't answer, I will not answer, but you don't give a wrong answer. My wife actually is my anchor and is very, very honest with me. She's not from the corporate world, but she gives me an outside in perspective of the situations that I'm going through, and is my constant support. So I think that's the whole ecosystem that has that I will credit with all that I've achieved today.
Amazing to know that, Amit. Well, there is a connecting link between all the conversations that we have. And in the common interest of all the viewers, I would like to know what are the top 3 messages you would like to give to the future leaders that will help them to take their careers to its helm.
3 messages to the future leaders. That's a tough one because everyone has their own concept of what will help them, but let me give it a shot. I think first and foremost is get comfortable with data and metrics. We always say that HR needs to get comfortable with data and metrics, but when I look at the organization, I think across organization, across functions, people need to get comfortable with data and metrics. See, data is available and it is there in abundance, right? And a lot of people use data to lead to decisions and then hide for the success or the failure of those decisions behind data. It's not about the data. I think it's also about what story you inculcate from that data. So, what people need to do is understand the data, use their experience and their intuition, because when we look at the data, you get a sense. Use the combination of all 3 of them in tandem and then arrive at a decision. Because life is not about black and white. I wish it was very easy and binary to say a yes or a no, but the more higher you go in the hierarchy, you will understand that it's all about managing the gray. The black and white is very easy, right? It's written, yes or no, but it's about managing the gray. And when you manage the gray, how do you build the story between your data, your experience, and your intuition? I think that, along with analytics, I think that's the key. And that is what people need to get very, very comfortable with. Some decisions will go wrong, some will go right. That's okay. As long as you know the intent that you took, that's important. I think the second thing is about building adaptability. There is this whole debate between generalist and specialist, and that debate was there 15 years back, and that debate still continues. Some people read one book and say you need to be a specialist. Some people read other papers and say you need to be a generalist. But I think what is the key to success is how adaptable you are to the opportunities that you create or come your way. If you are in an organization and you have aspirations to grow, people only look at vertical paths to grow, but there's also a wider horizontal area to gather experiences and grow. And that's adaptability. I've done operations role much later in my career. I wish I'd got the opportunity to do it much earlier outside of HR something. So, do cross-functional experiences, get into cross-functional projects. I think focus on the company issue and challenges and try to solve for them. Understand how you do business. So be adaptable in your career and do a mix and a match. I think that will help, go. The third is, as I say, which is a common phrase, but I firmly believe is soft stuff is the hard stuff. I think a lot of people forget that. Expectations from the leaders have changed. So if you want to be a future leader, sure, organizations will want you to be decisive. They will want you to be agile. They will want you to have speed to market. They will want you to be bold. Absolutely. But I think now in the changing world, they also want you to be compassionate. They also want you to be empathetic. They also want you to understand what the other person is going through. So I think that change is important, and you have to understand it's the soft stuff that is the hard stuff. It doesn't come easy. For the exterior that we build or for the image that we all build, it doesn't come easy. But to be able to coach, to be able to mentor, to be able to guide, I think is something that that is very, very important, And so I think that's how I would look at it. So just to rephrase anything, get comfortable with metrics and data. Build adaptability in your career. Soft stuff is the hard stuff. Remember that as you go higher on the leadership ladder. I think those are the three traits which would there. And obviously, I think the underlying of all of this is you should have the ability to be able to develop people and talent under you, because the grass has to grow under you. I think that's the other thing that I would leave people with the thought.
Great, Amit. I cannot agree more on these 3 points. And in fact, there is a lot to learn for me as well on this conversation, I would say. Well, we have been building this community of global thought leaders for cross-pollination of knowledge. What are your thoughts about this initiative?
I think it's very, very important to be able to share thoughts. When people talk about diversity and inclusion, I personally feel inclusion comes first, then comes diversity. And inclusion is a mindset. And inclusion is not about gender or, person with disability or preferences. I think inclusion is about experiences, difference in experiences, differences in qualifications, differences in values and thoughts, and all of that makes us a far more richer community, organization, ecosystem, whatever you may label it. If you have all similar kind of thought people, and that's what I always say. And I think that's the success. So if you look at the best business schools in the world, if you look at the best organizations in the world, they will focus on this part of inclusion and success. So I think what you are doing and what Havel is doing is really, really commendable to gather a community which has different experiences. So I think that's what you should do. So if you're interviewing me next time, you should maybe interview the best sitar player in the country, or the best drummer in the country across of age, to get their perspective and a story about their journey.
Well, it was a lovely and interesting conversation to all our viewers. A lot of learning from the Spotlight interview. Well, we get a lot of messages and emails from all our viewers, and really they ask questions: how can I grow? How can I take my career to the next level? Is there anything for me? And we have one standard answers. Go ahead, watch this Spotlight interview. Well, Spotlight interview with Amit Malik today, with some interesting conversation. Rightly, Zishan picked one of my favorite pointers. Keep your mind open to learn new things. That's the pick of the day. One more thing that I really liked what Amit mentioned is people watch the actions more than the words. That is really, that has a deep meaning itself in it. Messages for our future leaders today: get comfortable with data and metrics. Well, Amit has explained this in detail and very nicely elaborated well. So I'm sure once you go through this, it's going to be amazing for you. I really liked one line that Amit added. Black and white is something that we know. Yes or no may be the answer. But important is how you manage the gray. That is really important. So yes, let's learn how to manage the gray. Something really important, message number 2 for all our viewers: build the adaptability in your career. That is, again, an important pick for the day. Last, soft stuff is the hard stuff itself. It talks a lot about. Last thing that Amit ended the conversation with is develop people and talent under you. That's the true leadership skill, I believe. We really thank Amit Malik for sharing the insights and valuable thoughts on this platform today. Global Thought Leaders and RSG really thanks Amit Malik for this fabulous conversation, and you have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for having me, Havel and Zishan. It's been a great conversation. I think for all your viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you for giving me your time. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter and on LinkedIn. I'm always available. Thank you and have a good day.
It was an honor. Take care.